Hello, Ben.
Hello, that's a bit of a quiet start. Happy Friday.
Was it a bit? Was it a bit quiet?
Yes, there was no music.
Oh, I heard the music.
Oh, I didn't have the jaunty intro at my end.
How bizarre!
How
Can you hear
bizarre.
the bell? No.
No,
Oh
can't
well.
hear any of that.
Oh well. You can hear me, so that's fine.
Oh, okay. I always like the sound effects because they drown you out a bit.
Welcome everybody to this week's edition of Burgess Bolton's weekly wrap-up, where we look at everything to do with the London market, technology change, innovation. This week we are majoring on claims, and we've got the London Market Claims Conference coming up, and we've done some research. Well, I've done some research into some of the key themes that people would like to see covered at the event. Now, I'd usually ring my bell, but apparently
Ding.
the jingle box isn't working. That's such a shame.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. It
Ding,
really
ding,
will
right.
show how much of this show is about the jingle box, and that's where most of the content lies and the appeal.
Indeed. Yeah. Feel free to put stuff in the comments, Let us know what you think. Anywho, right, ding ding. Let's do the first bit of the news. So you spotted this, Ben. Stuart Reid on the MGA market.
Yeah. So Stuart Reid, who was ex-CEO of Bluefin and is a very senior commentator on the market now on various non-execs boards. One of which is Claims with a Q and some other organisations. But he writes regularly for Insurance Times about service and the changing, not the London market, but mainly the GI regional market. But I think it has a relevance to all of insurance. And what he's writing about here, I think, interestingly, is saying that the MGA market is really going to carry on growing, in his view, and it will thrive. And he puts this down to two reasons, really. One, he says for distribution purposes, MGAs are really still a very valuable asset in terms of just their, the productivity, if you like, for organisations in terms of getting product out to market, and also that they're able to service customers better because they're more agile and more set up really to deliver on service, whether that be claims, quote turnaround, forms, documentation, all that sort of stuff. They're pretty good at it, apparently. I mean, he says that this is not a universal positive for MGAs. He said some are good and some are not, and the ones that are not will fail. And there are a lot of startups and there are a lot of more established ones. But so he's also, I think, pointing to the fact that competition naturally weeds out the weaker ones and keeps the stronger ones, but they are measured, if you like, and then their success is determined to an extent by the ability to service and create this productivity advantage for insurers that use them. Clearly, they become kind of less important when the insurers don't need as much distribution. Particularly the last few years when rates have been quite high and demand, if you like, for capital is higher. But as we move forward, I think he's probably not going to be wrong that MGAs will come more into their own. And more to the point, I think that's quite interesting in what he's saying, and it is a fundamental thing, is that the question mark about whether, insurers becoming more picky about certain types of risks. So we talked last week about Lloyd's and casualty type risks, which are difficult because of social inflation and so on.
Yeah.
Certain parts of the market now are very difficult for insurers to see how they can make a profit. So they pull out and they become more picky. And he's saying this is as true, can be as true of the large composites, which have traditionally done all lines, as it is of some of the specialists. So he asked the question: are the days of the generalist UK GI company, the big composite, if you like, numbered? And do we really now start to look at these businesses doing less and less, becoming in a way more specialist. And that's an interesting. So that's the kind of first question. And he cites things like exits from markets like pet, travel, motorcycle, and so on. However, sorry, and then the second question is, do these insurers then just become kind of capacity providers? So in other words, have we got a fundamental shift going on in the market which you could say might be might be the same in London in some ways. You might say, well, what about follow syndicates and things like this? So the question is, I put it up here really because it's a bigger question about what's the structure of insurance delivery going forward, and do you just have sort of kind of product manufacturing stroke capacity provision, and then fronting organizations that do a lot of the more service oriented, or you might even say kind of touchy feely softer stuff that insurers struggle with because of systems and culture and all that sort of thing. So anyway, he says he doesn't think that that is necessarily going to be the case. He said that's still quite a long way off. So basically he falls down on the side of saying that insurers will still be around for the foreseeable future, and they will still do products, and they will be in and out of markets. And of course, you kind of have to look through the several cycles to see what's going to happen. But he also says that where these insurers are coming out of markets, MGAs will increasingly step in. They're more nimble. They have a much better cost base than these insurers, so they can change the commercial profile, if you like, of some of these risks that insurers are loath to write themselves, to fund, to just underwrite themselves. And I guess with the service and so on and so forth, pricing can all be different and all that. So it's an interesting argument. He does say that at the end of all of this, again, thinking about the future, is that you can't just be a platform. So you can't just be a kind of tech MGA and just have the efficiency and the productivity. That's kind of just the starting point. He believes strongly you still need the knowledge and the expertise to sell those products. And he said that he thinks that quite a few fail because of that. So really my final point on all of this, my take, is that wherever you look in insurance, there seems to be a consensus that yes, you can create productivity and efficiency, and tech can help with all of that. But ultimately, you still need some level of expertise to be able to sell this thing called an insurance product, no matter whether it's at the lower, might call the lower end or the complex end of the market. You still need that person or individuals or something that explains and understands what it is. And I think that's interesting, because I think that is, if that is true, then that will be what drives the structure. It will be about the knowledge, that humans have in association with technology going forward.
Yeah. And we'll come on to talk a little bit more about that when I bring the results of the pre-event survey up. But to pick up on some of those themes that are really interesting and point towards a bigger conversation about structural change in the industry, it's quite interesting if you look at those big composites and the way they're set up. That they are already set up in quite a siloed manner. So you take a big Aviva, and they have a motor division, they'll have a household division. So it's not like you talk to Aviva and you're talking, that's the brand, that's what they want to say, but actually in reality they are businesses within a business. So it's kind of already going down that route. And to your point around talent and expertise, if you look at what happens in the London market, a team will move from one place to another and set up a division within a company. So it's very much about that kind of knowledge and expertise within the brain. I think the other interesting thing, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but the role, and you pointed towards this, but the role of technology to perhaps enable a lower cost base is probably the thing that might drive this. Because if those big organizations, what they're looking for is scale, and then to add-on products, and you buy your house, and then they say, "Have you got a car? We'll give you a 10% discount if you put your car on there." And they're trying to get scale. If you flip it around and you say, "Well, actually, no, I will just go with the each individual products that I need to have insured will be through a different provider." And then I might have a banking app or a Revolut app that pulls all the data together in one place, so I can see all the products, and I can see my travel insurance and all that kind of thing. That might be a way that the industry shapes again. We're talking more consumer here, but
no, I think that you're right, and they are in silos, and they're basically in silos because they sell products to particular parts of the market. So you can argue they are potentially very different products. Interesting that we were talking about how CEOs see a future of a more fluid, kind of dynamic kind of underwriting environment where you cover multiple classes or multiple products. Well, that's fine, but it may be that the alternative argument is actually we need more specialization, and that's what MGAs do here. So that's another, it's kind of a counter to that argument. And so I don't really have a view either way, but I do think that if you look at insurance compared with, say, banking or other financial services, where you're really just selling money in a sense, you're selling an interest rate or something, or lending for an interest rate. In insurance, you are reliant on a kind of complex set of human behaviors as to what the outcome is, what the ultimate price of that product is. So if you sell just a motor policy, or the way that those people behave, or the way that, say, let's take motorcycle, someone uses a Harley Davidson versus just an ordinary person who uses a Yamaha or something, they could be quite behaviorally different, and therefore the profit margins could be very different for Harley Davidson users versus Yamaha users versus someone else. Now, someone can still look into the data and try and understand that and make a bet on the Harley Davidson being a better bet than the Yamaha motorcyclist, for example, and that is still there. Whereas you can do that to a certain extent, say, in the loans market in banking, but it's really not the same. I mean, behavior around loans is very much dependent on economic issue, economic factors, whether you've got the money or not got the money, you're going to pay the loan if you can. So it's far simpler in some ways probably in banking than it is insurance. And you set up a bank loan, you know exactly what the interest rate, and you're paying the bank essentially from the day you take out that loan. Now, you do pay the insurer, but the insurer is sitting there waiting for the possibility of a claim happening, and then thinking, oh my God, all the money I got from that policy has literally disappeared. And if that happens multiple times in the same area, then of course you have a problem in your overall balance sheet. You've lost a lot of money. So perhaps to do with that the insurance is a somewhat different product, and all these products can be sliced and diced in so many different ways. I mean, CFC, for example, a big MGA, did a brilliant job, I think, on marketing cyber, or does. And they made a lot of investment and effort in explaining cyber and showing the benefits of cyber and making it appealing to businesses and people. And so it shows that you might argue then maybe insurers wouldn't have been able to do that, because in the vast empire of a composite, they couldn't have argued the case for that, because the executives wouldn't have known whether they'd make enough money on it.
Yeah.
So that's perhaps the beauty of the market, and also maybe its Achilles heel is that it's not easily, it's not easy to kind of boil it down to just one size fits all in the end.
Yeah. Good. All right, that was good, and we'll have to just see how that market. I think it's a good litmus test, isn't it? The evolution of MGAs and different pockets of innovation in that.
Yeah, it is, and it's a flexible model, I think. Ultimately, I mean, it works we haven't really touched on it. It works in the E&S market, surplus lines out of the US. It's very big in terms of aggregation through technology of volume risks coming through that channel. But even there, I was reading an article today about that, saying, AI only goes so far, for example, in that whole area. So you still hit up against what's the balance between that technology and that thing. But it's about flexibility, and it's about different models. And definitely it's happening. And MGA growth, statistically, I think we showed it a few months ago, is not, it is growing despite, or contrary to what you might imagine in the market conditions, where it should not have grown, in given the rate conditions and so on.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Right. Ding, ding. I haven't got my bell. I don't know what's wrong with it. It's annoying me, that is. But anyway, let's move on. Thanks for that, Ben. So as I said, we've got London market claims coming up, and I wanted to touch on the results of the pre-event survey. So this survey goes out to all the attendees, and it basically asks them what they would like to get out of the conference and what they would like to get out of the individual sessions. So it's quite a timely, I guess, insight into what claims practitioners and operations people are thinking about ahead of the London market claims. So I just wanted to pick up kind of 5 of the kind of key challenges, I guess. That's the word. What are the challenges? That's what we asked. What are the challenges that you're facing? And what would you like to have discussed at the conference? So the top one was the adoption of AI and automation in claims. And I think, so this is something that's, whoever you talk to, or whoever I seem to talk to in claims or operations or heads of business lines, I think everybody is trying to see how this technology is going to drive change in their business and operating models and how they can apply it successfully. And what's interesting within this topic is actually the nuances of the conversation, which have changed from, oh my God, AI is just we're going to get rid of all the people and we're just going to have this technology that's going to be able to press, it's going to be amazing. Where it's not, no one is talking about firing people or anything like that. I think what they will actually need is more people, but with a different skills set. And so that's quite interesting. So it's going to be really interesting during the conference to see where that kind of lands and where people are in terms of using the technology. I don't know if you want to come in on these as we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I mean, I think probably the largest number of comments or asks were around automation and AI, aren't they, in the survey?
Yeah.
So clearly that's an area both of opportunity and, as you say, maybe some threat in a way. I guess people are feeling like we better keep up with the Joneses on this and the competition, because otherwise we might be missing out and losing out. I think it also suggests that claims is a very obvious place for AI and automation to work. I mean, I think everybody would think that was common sense, given so much of it is process and administration for straightforward claims, and a sense of alleviating the problem of talent by doing the legwork. So I think it does not surprise me, but I think it perhaps is interesting to see that most of the comments that come back are what is happening with AI and what's going to happen, not just want to see if I'm on the right track or we're already halfway up the mountain with this. So I think it's definitely a sense of still people saying what is going to happen in the future, as opposed to how do we capitalize on what we've already done. So will be interesting to talk about that, and I think you've been talking about use cases, haven't you, this week?
Yeah, so after I've run through these 5, I've got a couple of minute clips from a panel session that I ran on Wednesday, which was use cases of AI within insurance. And it very quickly, the 2 use cases that teed it up were actually kind of more forward facing, so helping employees in call centers make notes, transcribe and summarize conversations. It's kind of the you say normal, it wasn't around a couple of years ago, but the way this technology can be applied really quickly. None of it is forward facing, none of it is, it's just too risky. And I actually don't think any brand really wants to go down that route. For the reason we've been talking about.
So it's also costly, isn't it? I mean, it's risky and it's costly, really, to try and evaluate. And the risk, I think, is the cliff edge of saying, well, now we don't need people to make these judgments, and we can have the AI doing it, and then the AI goes wrong, and you're in a big hole.
That's it. And I think that leads on to the next thing, which is kind of data analytics, because underpinning, any of these kind of technologies, advanced analytics technologies and smart automation and all that kind of thing, is the data which you need in order to make it work. And at the moment, it's in a bit of a mess, within organizations. And how many decades have we been talking about standardization? So I think there's an opportunity to use the technology to sort out your data challenges and put in architecture that will work, and then how you kind of build on it, to your point, Ben, to optimize these processes. And we say it almost weekly, but get rid of the drudgery of, whatever it is, rekeying information or, trawling a PDF to find out bits of whatever data you need. So, it's interesting.
Yes, I wonder as well. I mean, interesting thing to talk about is how bogged down do people get in all of this, and how much does it, occupy their thinking and their minds when they're thinking about what do we want to deliver in claims. I mean, I was doing a session with a team this week, and they were very, very, I wouldn't say obsessed, but they were really completely sort of absorbed with the whole issue of their systems and their technology. And we talked for a while and went through various scenarios, and they came up with great solutions and ideas, actually, where you don't have to spend your every waking hour worrying about it. You can manage things through the people and the resource you've got if you think about that a bit more. So I think it sometimes creates a state of kind of paralysis. and or waiting for the nirvana of brilliant, wonderful systems. And I think there's quite a lot of talk in this, some people here referring to what's the balance, between human and automation, which I think you're going to come up with. Which I think is so important.
This is massive, actually. It's a third bullet point, but actually it's a huge topic, and we've got sessions dedicated not only to kind of that topic, balancing technology and claims talent, but also going further and saying, well, what is that talent? What does it look like? What are the skills and capabilities that you're going to need in order to prompt an AI engine? That it's going to be different. And I think it's super exciting for claims, because, as I've already said, it will get rid of kind of the drudgery of the process, or the manual interventions that you need, and suddenly you'll be doing the really valuable but exciting work within claims. So I think it's going to be a really great discussion. And just building just slightly on last year's conference, where we had it seemed like a younger, kind of fresher group than we've had in the past, that were much more willing. And I think this backs up your workshop that you ran this year. They really want to use the technology and the tools to come up with ideas and innovate and drive through changes that in the end improve the service delivery to customers. And if you do that, you're on a winner.
I mean, I'm I'm of the view that actually as well there's probably been almost too much attention on the technology and too little on the people and the talent. And I think that would be another interesting question to raise, which I will raise. And I think we've got research that says that is the case. So there's these things go back and forth, don't they? Something like AI comes up and everybody says, "Oh, look at that! That could solve a lot of things," and you kind of forget a bit the other side of it. So the seesaw goes one way, and then next you start to think, "Oh God, now we've got a problem with talent. We've got to reskill these operations, and we've got to reskill because we've got technology coming in, so we need people to deal with that technology at one level. That's an additional part of the job, and then you've got to say." The job of claims is changing because the way that claims is being presented as part of the proposition for insurers is also changing from what we can see everywhere, which is that so you need much better people, soft skills, sales skills within those claims teams. So the hygiene part of the job, the technical aspects of the job are still there, but increasingly I suspect that they can be done by computers in some way, shape or form. But the judgment and then the service elements, the added value, if you like, is incredibly important. But we're still in the foothills on the people as well. So it's a huge amount to do, I think. And I think it's part of the, where we've been with claims, which it was never really put, as they say, front of shop. It's never really been invested in properly, in my view. I think if you really, really invested in claims and just thought about it a lot more than you do underwriting, for example, you'd have much better businesses ultimately, and I think they would grow.
Yeah. Comment here from Paul. Paul, thanks for that. Yeah, I think that's basically what we've been talking about there. She's good, and
Paul's right. I mean, I think that's what most people are now saying, is that it's massive step forward if we can get rid of that grunt work, because that's part of the big cost of this market. I mean, not just in claims, but in underwriting as well. So, I mean, paying people a lot of money to do admin that computers can do is daft.
Yeah, definitely. That brings us on to the fourth one. So operational streamlining and efficiency. So, there's there's two outcomes in there. You improve the client experience and hopefully you reduce your cost base. And, that's obviously very important. And the final one is the Blueprint 2 stuff and the modernization agenda. I think there's quite a lot of confusion still around the timelines, especially with the stuff that's happened over the summer. So we've got a session on its own for those people that are interested in that type of stuff. But I'll tell you what is interesting about that. If you looked, and we will look back at last year's survey, Blueprint 2 was actually the number one point. So it's interesting.
I think you're right. I think sadly people have lost interest in the market. It'd be interesting to see what they say about it. I mean, I think that's my sense.
Yeah, interesting. So so that's kind of the pre-event survey. Some of the stuff we'll be covering. We'll make I've actually written a more extensive kind of insights from the survey, which I'll publish next week. So I'll put a link onto that as well, so you can have a read. As a final thought, I just thought I'd play a clip from the webinar on Tuesday. It's just a couple of minutes. The webinar was mainly looking at kind of AI within general insurance and its approaches. But we've got a question about claims, and it's quite interesting how the three panelists kind of answer it. So let's have a watch of this, and then we'll come back and have a quick chat about it. Well, that's interesting. Why is that not playing?
I didn't have much of an answer to your question, did they?
No. Let me try it again.
All technology has failed.
All technology has failed. Could you see it?
No.
Or not? No, I don't know what's going on. Of course, in rehearsals, it works fine.
Yeah.
But live. Anyway, let me summarize what they were saying. So they were using, as I was saying, kind of summary technologies to enhance the call center experience and write up the notes and everything that needs to be done to comply with regulatory stuff. And a question came in saying, have you got more advanced technologies where a AI could recognize pictures of a damaged car and then quickly help a call center operative to assess the damage and put a price around it and hopefully speed up that transaction. And people were saying yes, they did. Interestingly, one of the use cases was they were using AI to spot fraudulent pictures being sent in because the pictures are getting so good now of damaged vehicles. It's hard for the human eye to actually pick up whether something's been changed or that type of thing. So they're kind of reverse engineering or pointing the AI to do that. So there was kind of 3 points to the session. I'll put it in the link. I'll put the link to the whole thing in there so you can see it. But yeah, that was it. And it was really back to that point about technology and talent. That's what all these people were talking about. And we had Chief Underwriting Officer there, Chief Information Officer, Transformation Director. So no one was really saying, oh, we could really, get rid of FTEs here. It was all about how do we improve the service? How do we just shorten the timeline? Because that's where the cost is, that's where it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Good. Right. The bell is not working. Oh, the video's not working. It's raining. What else? Right. Should we talk a little bit about the Lloyd's oversight plan, which is kind of related, isn't it?
Only briefly, because this is not the most exciting of documents, but I just think it's worth referring to this before we get to the claims conference and all the other stuff we'll be talking about. But there does seem now to be quite a move, and it's going to be talked about at the conference, about the fifth hurdle, so that claims actually becomes another facet of the whole kind of oversight plan, the outcomes and actions plan. So for the whole of the Lloyd's oversight. So it is very much kind of put in the middle here of this now as a new thing for claims. I think I'd be interested to listen to what's being talked about, because I think they call it the COAD. They've always got an acronym: Claims, Outcomes and Actions Dashboard. Data on life cycle performance, case reserves, expert management, in other words, lawyers and so on, loss adjusters. But a lot of the measures that they've got here are hard measures, and I think it's true probably of most of the Lloyd's market oversight plan, with the exception perhaps of the culture aspects. And there is some focus on customer and things like that. But I'd say, and I know Lloyd's is a wholesale market, right? But I'd still say that there is very little in here that is really pertinent to customer outcomes and experiences. So I'd be really interested to hear about that, as to how that all plays out, because that's where I think most of the businesses in the market are going to. And it's where the discussion is not necessarily do we fulfill the basics in terms of, there are issues obviously, but settlement times and speed and things like that, those need to be better, of course, but it's how do we really meet what are kind of essentially changing customer needs in the market. Now, you can call it changing customer needs, but it's also changing broker competition. We've talked about MGAs earlier on. I mean, if they say we want to deliver a better service, they need the carriers to help with that, and they need that to happen, and Lloyd's perhaps to be behind that. So I think it's just interesting when we talk about this fifth hurdle, which sounds all well and good, but is it really, are we measuring the right things here? in terms of the value of the product again.
Yeah. I think that will be interesting, because I think I get the sense that the claims leaders that come to our conference and talk about this stuff have got a real passion for the value that claims delivers to individuals at the end of the day. And that's what drives them and motivates them personally, but also organizationally.
I think if you start from
there.
I think you're right. If you start from the customer's need, then it's much better to track back from that in all these type of documents. And I wish, in a way, Lloyd's could do that with these sort of things. I mean, I know you've got to do the financial plan, but if you're a company, you never talked about your customers really, other than in passing, it would be disastrous. I think when we talk about what is going on and what's the oversight plan, what's the plan ought to be to deliver to certain outcomes for customers. Whereas in this document, it's about, well, we've got to, meet the regulatory requirements under consumer duty. We've got to make sure that reserving is proper and prior years are sorted out. We've got some touch points in the delegated area, interestingly, which is we need to, a greater understanding of the relationship between carriers and delegated on some level of customer outcome in that, because I think there's some fear around regulation on that. But a lot of it is not starting from the value of the product to the person or company that's buying it. And that's my point that I've made for years and years and years, and I don't know why it never gets built in.
Yeah. You heard it here.
You've heard it here so many times, like a broken record.
Right. Ding, ding. Right, the bell. So, do you want to tee up these couple of cartoons, Ben?
Memes?
With the...
memes. So okay, so let me just tear it up. So Sir Keir Starmer did his first speech as Prime Minister at the Labour conference this week, and we all know he made a terrible faux pas in the middle of this. And I was reflecting on this afterwards, having spoken over the years on many platforms at many conferences and watched many other people speak at conferences. Now, I still maintain that I've never seen anybody switch in a word like Sir Keir Starmer did in this speech. So I still feel confused as to why this has happened, because it is so odd to have done this, because he's reading off an auto cue for a start. So, but it suggests to me that his mind must have drifted and he was thinking about his tea as opposed to what he was supposed to be talking about. But that's, again, none of this to me gives me confidence in the person. And it seems, is it going to be an isolated incident, or are we going to have other words thrown in, in future, like crumpets or
other foodstuffs?
Other foodstuffs like, Madeira cake, freely, whatever. So anyway, the word is obviously sausages. So chuck them up.
So so then a bunch of memes came out, obviously almost immediately, didn't they? Pretty funny.
It's not actually, to me, a close. When you misspeak because there's a word that sounds like another. In other words, you drop a word in because it sounds similar. I think that sausages is not like hostages. I mean, it roughly rhymes, but I don't think you'd even say it actually rhymes particularly. So, yeah, it's weird.
Snoop Dogg could get it to rhyme with his accent, I think.
Yeah.
But it's anyway. There you have it. It's been a big week.
It has. Yeah, it's been. I mean, he's luckily, apparently. I've just got my lights flashing.
I wondered what that was. It's all going wrong.
Technology. Let's not talk about technology at all at the claims conference. Let's ignore it
No,
altogether because it's a disaster. It's terrible. It's the bane
the
of my
whole
life.
thing.
Yeah. No. Sorry. What was I saying?
Hostages, sausages, and it's been a
Sausages.
big week for foodstuffs.
Oh yeah. I mean, I just don't. I can't see. I mean, you've fluffed a few words. We've all fluffed a few things in our time, and we've
Yeah.
seen other people do it. But I don't think I've ever replaced a word. Now I'm worried because I'm speaking on a panel at your conference. I'm really concerned that this kind of polite Tourette's might take over. I mean, it's nice, isn't it? I mean, you just say they're nice words. It's not a bad word, but it perhaps shouldn't be used in a hostage scenario.
No. Anyway, that's the week that was. Very good. Right then, what are you doing this weekend, Ben? Anything?
Well, I
miserable
think I've been suffering from COVID for about a week and a bit. I'm going to say it is COVID because it just feels like it. And so it was my birthday last weekend, so I couldn't do anything. So I'm doing that this weekend. Yes. So I'm
Good.
touring a vineyard in the rain, basically.
Oh, excellent. Which one?
Kent vineyard. Just outside Canterbury, Chartham. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
Been
Nice.
going a few years, and it's got some nice, some fizzy type champagne type stuff, which is what's all the rage now in England. Tattinger, the champagne people, have just opened up actually just yesterday, a big launch of their vineyard. So yes, that's what's happening. The climate change, means you can do champagne, and they're even doing red wine as well, in some of these vineyards now.
Yeah,
in the UK.
I took my mum and dad to, I think it was Chapel Down. I think it was their birthdays, and we had the tour, and then you have a bit of a tasting thing. And anyway, they gave us the red, and my mum's face when she tasted it, she was like, "Where can I spit this horrible stuff out?"
I don't think the reds are all
hilarious.
They can only grow them every few years when the temperature's right, when the weather's right. So they're probably extremely hit and miss, I think. I'll let you know. I'll find out about that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, what about you?
Good. I am. I'm home alone because my wife has left me. She just left me a list of things to do.
I mean, been coming for years, mate.
Yeah, she's left me.
Good
So yeah, apparently tomorrow morning there's a ton of logs arriving, so I've got to shift a ton of logs. It's like, all right, you go away for the weekend, and I have to move. Right, okay, I've
logs for a fire, I assume.
Yes, yeah,
yes, because it's getting to be winter. Yes, I have some fires here.
Yeah,
so I have lots of logs, but probably not enough.
Yeah. So that's I quite enjoy stacking the logs, so I'll do that at the weekend, and then it'll be football and all the rest of the stuff that the kids get up to, so that's good. Nice. Okay, brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Ben, for those clips. Apologies to everyone who tuned in to see the video, but don't worry, I'll put the link to the whole thing on the comments below.
You can dub them in later, can't you, the old sound effects?
Yeah, I can't be bothered.
No, I know. All right, fine.
Okay.
It's nice, isn't it, for the audience?
Yeah. Sorry, audience. Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.